Hi, Greg Beckett here, Motivational Hypnotist, and it's another episode of Time to Get Unstuck. It's a show about moving forward, and today we're going to have Dr. Jay Rodriguez from Cal State Long Beach, who is a professor of communications and takes the mess out of messaging. But before we get to him, what I want to talk about for just a moment is we have a great sponsor that is, who is it? Hypnothoughts Live 2019. If you're a hypnotist or not a hypnotist, it's still a great place to go. August this year to Las Vegas. And Hypnothoughts Live has really helped me develop my skills and to build a community with other hypnotists, to learn and to grow. There's some people there that are doing this for a living there that go to learn and grow, and other people that aren't doing this as a living that go there to learn and grow. Just to learn more about the experience and the opportunities available, all that kind of stuff. So thank you, Hypnothoughts Live 2019, for sponsoring us. And now this show is going to have a word. Why are we going to have a word? Because we're taking this show about change. And in change, there's a lot of words that come up very often, whether it's in my journey or with my clients. And I wanted to take a particular word with each guest that comes to talk about it and what it means to them and what it might mean to change and to each other and all of you that are watching. So, Dr. Jay Rodriguez, the guy who takes the mess out of messaging, the word is, I say intention, you say
intentionality.
Intentionality.
But, you know, it's a similar way of talking about a concept, about purpose.
Right. So for me, intention, I tend to, I think a lot of people do, is it's in a lot of books, it's in a lot of our culture. What's your intention? Is where do you think you're going, or what or your thought is, so to speak, right? Isn't that what a lot of people tend to think of it as? You know,
right.
Where am I going? What's my thought? What's my, not necessarily purpose, but it can be purpose like you're saying, but I mean, in the general sense, it's, oh, what's my intention? And it's a very sometimes stagnant.
Yes, there's lots of ways to think about it. And I think the very common understanding, or the very popular understanding of intention, is to direct attention to a particular area of life, to direct attention to a particular thought, to direct attention to the breath, to direct attention to what you're doing. So this idea of directing attention in a particular direction. Now, the larger frame or the larger focus might also be purpose. What is my motivation, for example? What am I motivated to do, or what is my desire? That is kind of a broader category in terms of intention.
So when you're talking about the broader way of intention, you said attention, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Put your attention to something. And I know that's true. I never really thought about it that way. I always think intention as not, and it is about taking attention to something. I never really thought of it that way. I always think of intention as I don't want to say exclusive, but not in that way. But you say intentionality, right?
Yeah. So I use the term intentionality in a little bit different context, because I use it in a way to talk about our role and our purpose in performing a role, right? So I think about it more in theater. If you can think about theater as a metaphor for life,
okay.
Acting and performing,
right.
And the roles that we play. So I always give the example, we play different roles in life. We play the role of father, dad, brother, ally, friend, therapist, sister, whatever, relational partner. So we play different roles, and excuse me, each of those roles usually has connected with it some type of motivation or purpose in a particular scene of life. So I always ask people in the process of transformation, in the process of change, to think about, what is my purpose in this scene? What is my motivation in this situation? And then allow the answer to that question to drive your behavior in a way that is thoughtful, in a way that's mindful, in a way that is helpful, instead of just being thoughtless and reactionary, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. But not but, I'm going to say and. What I know from you is you have a three-prong sort of, or three-word position of working on things, correct?
Right.
Intentionality.
Right. So this is based on a TED talk that I delivered back in October, and the three-part system is the basis for my work. I'm writing a book about it, a textbook for college students, and it's a three-part process that has three words connected to it. The first one is identity. The second one is intentionality, which we're talking about today. And the third one is agency. So let me go back and talk about identity. Identity can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But for me, identity is the idea, again, going back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, that you play different roles in life. You have a different identity or a self that arises in situations with other people. So you might ask yourself, who am I in this scene? What role am I playing? Am I playing the role of father? Am I playing the role of ally? Am I playing the role of friend? Those are all questions about identity.
This
right?
could be, with the identity, let me ask a quick question. This could be a different role in every relationship or many different situations.
Right. Yeah. My argument is that we are playing different roles all the time.
Okay.
In every moment of life, and just think about your average day when you're at the grocery store, you're playing the role of customer who's paying for groceries. But then if you get interrupted because a friend comes into the aisle and you see them and you say, hi, all of a sudden you've changed and your role becomes friend. And then you get to the parking lot and you get into your car and then your role becomes driver. So we're always changing our roles, and in a sense, we're changing our identity or our performance of selfhood in the moments of life. So connected with that idea, the second concept, which is the word that we're talking about today, is intentionality, which is all about purpose. Now that I know my identity or my role in a particular scene, well, what's my purpose or what's my motivation? What is it that I am intending to do? And I could ask myself, what is my purpose? What's my motivation? My motivation might be to be kind. My motivation might be to be helpful. My motivation might be just to have a good time and to have fun. All those are different forms of manifesting intentionality in the moments of life. And the last piece, the third dimension that I talk about, is agency. And agency is just a fancy word for what you do, how you move in the world, how you act. And here you might ask yourself, what can I do that is helpful? How can I move in the world in ways that work? So for example, you might say, well, one of the things that I can do is I can say something nice to somebody. One of the things that I can do is I can give somebody a hug. One of the things that I can do is I can share a compliment, or I can shake somebody's hand, or I can say to somebody, hey, listen, I don't know what you're going through right now, but I know how I feel when I am with you. I'm here for you. I care about you. What can I do to support you? Those are words that are not only comforting, but lead to action, because I'm asking what I can do to be of service. So you see, when we think about this, we have identity, we have intentionality, and we have agency. Because at the end of the day, that last part of action becomes very important, because we can intend all that we want, but at some point we have to do something that is hopefully helpful, useful, and preferable. And this three-part system is an entry point into that process.
So I'm hearing all of those different parts for this process, and I can see where they all lodge in together. And what I find interesting is intentionality. When we had talked about it before and we're talking about it now, I always thought of it more as a verb, the way that you've said intentionality instead of intention. But actually it's the agency that's the actual action, or of the three-prong idea that you have here
That's right.
of making
That's right.
change.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So notice that becomes very important because, intention and identity in a way are performative or internal in nature many times.
Right.
Or
That's
invisible.
That's what I was thinking. When
Yeah.
you're talking about intention at first, I was like, I'm always thinking intention, not attention. Intention. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So intention is an exertion of the will or a predisposition of the mind, but it tends to be a very internal process that is invisible to me usually. If I'm talking to you, right, I don't quite know what your intention is. I could assume, I could have a theory about it, right? But but I don't know. But when I see your behavior, right, when I see your performance of agency, when I see how you act, then I have clear evidence of what you are intending to do because I see your behavior and the results that creates in the world. So that last part, I think, is very important for a variety of reasons.
Well, all those three things together seem to me that it also creates self-responsibility or
Absolutely.
what's the other word? Taking responsibility of your life, your choices and everything, because you have the identity. Who am I? What do I want in this situation? Or who am I overall as a person, right?
Yeah,
Then
exactly.
And where do I want to go with my life if you were to look at it at the overall and then break it down into pieces? Because sometimes so many pieces are difficult for people to grab. So if you look at the overall, who am I? Am I a hypnotist? Am I this? Am I that? Are you a professor? Are you a son? What are we at this time that we're looking at in that section, right? And the intentionality, where do I want to be with this? What kind of father, son, host, friend do we want to be? And then if we're not there yet, then we take that agency, right?
There you go. There you go.
So that I'm taking responsibility of going towards something. Because we talk about the show's time to get unstuck, but you can't get unstuck. You can only move forward. You can move stuff.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. Moving forward in the moments of life, I like to say. In every moment, you have a choice. You have a choice about what you would like to do and how you would like to behave. In every moment, you have a new opportunity, really, to start again. And I'm not saying that that's easy. I'm not saying that that's, always advisable. I'm not saying that you can change and do whatever you want. No, because there are constraints and there are certain limitations, meaning sometimes you get cast in a particular role, right? At work or with your mom or with some boss who's crazy or dogmatic, and you get cast in a particular light, and it's very hard to cast yourself in another light. I'm not denying that, but what I'm saying is that there are so many moments in life beyond work that we can choose how to be, how to respond. And the more thoughtful we are about who we are in a particular moment, what our purpose is, and what we choose to do, I think the greater the possibility that we can behave in ways that are aligned with our highest purpose.
So you said something interesting, if you're cast in a role.
Yeah.
So that's, and so I can be clear, I'm thinking of that as when someone sees you in a particular role that maybe it's not who you see yourself as, or you didn't choose to be that, but they can't take that identity that they have on you. Like, let's say you're a good employee, but you don't do it the way they want you to, but you get the same result, but they want you to do it a certain process. And they're like, oh, they're stubborn, or they're not a good employee, even though you're doing a good result, right? Because you're not doing it their way. So they cast you as a bad employee or difficult or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
So that typically comes from their perspective.
That's correct.
So do you, because this popped in my head, do you have any thought, idea about how to recast yourself?
Yeah, that can be that can be the topic of a 3-hour
Oh, yeah, I'm
discussion.
sure.
Yeah.
So could all of this that we're doing.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That can be extremely challenging because of certain power dynamics.
Right.
So I have to be very, very clear. I'm not saying that this is easy. It is doable, but if you're in a situation where there's a huge power differential, meaning that I'm going to use a very concrete example where it's your boss, right, who has a lot of power over you because they're the vice president of a corporation or something, and they're casting you as a bad employee, it can be impossible to recast yourself because of the power dynamics in that scene. But you could ask to be changed to a different department. You could leave and find another job. You could, decide to align with coworkers that support you and then have a different casting within a group of people. Those are all options. That those options are available to everyone and everybody's going to be able to execute those. No, because I don't know people's particular life situation.
Right.
But the idea is that you have the power to choose a particular identity. And you may choose a particular identity and be very fluid about it. And then there's somebody trying to cast you. I always think about this as, the roles that we play as children with our parents. So when I was in grad school and I would come home for the holidays, I would always be cast as child. No matter how old I was getting my Ph.D. and I was out of state and I was all grown up and I would come home for Thanksgiving or for Christmas and I would be cast as child, and it was the most frustrating thing. And I realized that there was nothing really to do to take myself out of that casting role, because in my parents' eyes, I would always be their child. I had to do something very interesting, is that I chose to go into acceptance. I own that identity and allow it to be okay. Instead of resisting, instead of correcting my parents, instead of going into rebellion, because I thought that that would be the most loving thing to do. The most loving thing to do is just accept their casting, allow it to be okay, and to be playful about it. And then in a sense, I am choosing an identity. I am choosing that to be okay. And within the parameters of that identity that they have cast on and I have accepted, I can be free to kind of just be a regular person in those moments where every once in a while I'm cast as child and I can choose to adopt that casting or not. Right? I can say, oh my gosh, you're casting me as child again. Are you doing that again? Come on now, Mom. And almost like be playful with it instead of making it a thing that we have to fight about at Thanksgiving. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. And then it gives you the opportunity to
Did we lose audio?
No, I can hear you. I hear you. So I can hear you fine. We're good. You good?
Cool.
Okay. So what I was saying was about that was you get the opportunity to take responsibility in those 3 words you were talking about, right? You could take your intention. I want to have a good family relationship, even though I'm cast as something else. How you play with that, which would be the agency, is the work, right? The action of being playful about it. So you can take those 3 things of identity, intentionality, I want a good family relationship and stuff, and then use that for yourself. So you could take self-responsibility even when you're not cast appropriately of what you think, but it doesn't have to be a sudden change for everybody else. You can kind of edge it over.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a moment by moment negotiation, right? If we're really honest with ourselves, this is happening all the time in every moment of life. We're negotiating identity. We're putting something out and the other person is either accepting it or rejecting it. And they go with it or they don't go with it. And then we adapt and we go with it for a while. We might go into resistance and then we're negotiating back and forth. And somebody is validating you for the identity that you're putting forth, or they're not validating you for the identity that you're putting forth. And then you have to think about, gosh, what's my purpose here? What's my motivation? Do I want to be a family member? Do I want to be antagonistic? Do I want to go into resistance? What's my purpose? What's my goal? What's my outcome? And then after I answer that question, then I can ask the question, what can I do? How can I behave? What can I do that is helpful, that's useful, that's preferable, that's loving, that's kind? And then wait and see what answer arises for you as a result of asking those questions, and then enact that behavior. And for me, it was, going with the flow, allowing it to be okay, being funny about it, not taking it too seriously. And those were all choices that were done in the moments with my family.
So your formula, I'm sitting here going, oh, your whole formula, your construct of these three words together is giving you a way to be conscious about your life.
A way to become and continue to perform in consciousness,
right,
in awareness. I think I like the word self-awareness,
yeah,
where you are aware of how self is played out in the moments of life. And for me, that becomes the process of becoming very mindful of who you are in the different scenes of life.
Cool.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And guess what? Time's up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know, it went by pretty quick, quicker than we thought.
Man, wow.
Where can they find you, Dr. J?
All right, so I can be found online at www.joserodriguez.solutions. So that's www.joserodriguez.solutions. I also have a TED Talk online. It's called The Power of Solidarity in the Moments of Life. And I'm also on Twitter at jrodriguez, Ph.D. There's where you can find me.
Awesome. And Greg Beckett, you can find me on Facebook. Greg at hypnosisla.com or hypnosisla.com. And thank you also again to HypnoThoughts Live 2019 for sponsoring us. And thanks for viewing. Have a great day.